Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast. This week, I'm going to talk about something that I don't think I've spoken about on the podcast before. And it's a big topic, and it's a really important topic. It's all about the emotional roller coasters in perimenopause, otherwise known as the mood swings and the rage. Now, if you've ever found yourself just like snapping at a loved one over something tiny, or crying because you can't do up your necklace, that's me, that was me, or just feeling like a totally different version of yourself emotionally, please know you are not alone. In fact, these mood swings, rage outbursts, and sudden tearful moments are one of the most common, often the least talked about experiences of perimenopause. I guess it just depends. I know with my friends, we talk about it all the time, but I know with some people they don't, or they just think there's something wrong with them, or there's something wrong with their relationship, and that's why they're experiencing these strong emotions. But in this episode, I'm going to really validate your experience. I'm going to explain exactly what's going on from a hormonal point of view and give you some strategies that can actually help to bring more calm, more balance, less crying into your life again. So let's dive into this really important topic. So first up, let me say this loud and clear. You are not crazy. It is not all in your head. You're not just being overly emotional. What you're experiencing is very real, and it's deeply rooted in hormonal changes that affect neurotransmitters, which are your brain chemicals, so your brain chemistry, and even your stress response system. So during perimenopause, and I've talked about this before, that your estrogen and your progesterone levels, they actually fluctuate. In fact, your progesterone just drops away pretty quickly, but your estrogen can surge and drop and surge and drop. And these fluctuations can happen sometimes hour to hour. It's pretty wild, right? This can just fluctuate so dramatically in such a small period of time. And estrogen has a direct relationship with serotonin. Serotonin is our feel-good neurotransmitter. And when estrogen drops, so can serotonin, which can make you feel sad. It can make you feel irritable, anxious, or weepy. And then there's progesterone, which is one of our naturally calming hormones. It also helps with sleep and helps with our regulation of our nervous system. But guess what? It starts to decline earlier than estrogen, and it doesn't really surge in the same way that estrogen does. So you're often left with less of this calming influence and more spikes in estrogen, and that imbalance can make you feel edgy, overwhelmed, and emotionally just fragile. So yeah, those moments of rage, impatience, irritability, tears, despair are driven by biology. It's not you. It's not any personal weakness or that, any inability to cope on your part. This is biology. It's biochemistry. You are doing your best in a body system that's being completely rewired, which is pretty wild because we're not really aware that this is happening. It's similar, I guess, to puberty. And often perimenopause is called second puberty, where you get these just incredible changes in hormones that really impact your emotions. So let's talk about the rage. This is really common and it is real. And many women in perimenopause, and I've totally had this, many women describe moments of this explosive anger that just feels like it comes out of nowhere and also completely out of character. I know I'm very calm generally, and when I've had these moments of this anger, it's like, why am I so... There's an element of me that knows that my reaction is over the top compared to what's actually going on. But at the same time, it's so strong and it's so deep in, certainly in my body, it's just this explosion that comes out. And it's like you don't even recognize yourself and you feel like you're just on this short fuse when that's happening. And this mix of hormonal shifts, stress buildup, and I think just sheer depletion, sheer exhaustion. Think of it like this. Your nervous system is overstimulated, your cortisol is likely elevated from constant stress, and your sleep, well, let's be honest, it's probably not great. So many women that I talk to in my practice, one of the big issues they have is they're not sleeping. They might go to sleep okay, but then they're waking anywhere between 1 and 3 and really struggling to get back to sleep. And that is generally a progesterone issue. So when you don't get enough sleep, because we know sleep is super important, but you're not getting that sleep, your hormones are out of balance, so all those emotions are kind of all over the place. Your body is in a near constant state of fight or flight, and that means small things can feel huge. Annoyances turn into outrage. It's not about being dramatic, it's about having a dysregulated nervous system that needs support. So please don't blame yourself for these moments. You are not failing. You are not having a complete inability to cope or a complete nervous breakdown. You're having a very normal response to the internal chaos that's going on in your brain biochemistry and your hormone system. So, yeah, this happens. It happens to many of us. I would probably say to most of us. So what do we do about it? Let's talk about some solutions, because I'm all about helping you feel better, not just labeling the problem. So here are some of the strategies that I recommend in my clinic, with my clients, in the Glow protocol, and for myself in my own life. I recommend this to my friends to help them manage those emotional shifts during perimenopause. Sometimes postmenopause as well. So these are in no particular order because this is really individual. That's why, as you know, I work with personalized programs, personalized protocols, because everyone is different. So some of these may apply to you, some of these may not. So as I said, no particular order. First and foremost, for me personally, and for many people, it's balancing out blood sugar. Blood sugar crashes can mimic anxiety if you're kind of more of an anxious type and really fuel irritability. I know, you know that hangry, right? That's because your blood sugar's crashed. So, and I'm not talking about in a diabetic context. That's a very different medical situation. I'm just talking about your blood sugar dropping, usually in response to too many carbs or you haven't eaten recently or whatever. So the thing is, if you're also stressed, raised cortisol that happens when we're in our stress response, that increased cortisol interferes with blood glucose metabolism. So you're even more prone to dysregulated blood glucose and having the blood sugar crash. Often this can happen in the afternoon, particularly if you haven't had enough protein at lunch. Or you haven't had breakfast, you're doing fasting, things like that. So some of the things that I recommend and have research to support them as well are 3 meals a day, no snacks. Now these need to be beautifully balanced meals with the right combination of protein, carbs, fats, fiber, etc. But 3 meals a day, no snacks, and having that fasting period of 5 to 6 hours between meals is amazing for helping to regulate your blood sugar. Another little trick that I have is having 2 bites of protein first when you start a meal. And this is a really easy habit to get into. It can take a little bit of time, but generally it's pretty easy. So 2 bites of protein first, again, tricks your body into thinking you're having a high protein meal. So it slows down your insulin production. So you don't necessarily get that drop in blood sugar that happens when insulin spikes. If you don't know a lot about that, please give me a message on Instagram at the Perimenopause Path, because that is something I could do a podcast episode on. I think I may have done one. It's probably a few years ago. But if I say anything actually on this podcast today that you want to know more about, please just message me. I love having ideas for content. My second strategy that I recommend in clinic and that I use in my own life is to support your nervous system. There are many ways we can do that. Deep breathing will support your nervous system. It tells the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus is in the brain. It's kind of your master controller of your stress response and your rest and digest response. And if you support your nervous system by telling that part of your brain that the threat has gone, we can just dial back the stress hormones. Deep breathing is one of the easiest and best ways you can do that. Obviously, meditation, but not everybody is suited to meditation. If you don't have time, if it's going to be just stressful for you, if you have a very, very busy mind, if you have certain mental health conditions, meditation may not be right for you. So you don't have to do that. But being mindful. So, even when I'm doing this podcast, I help to regulate my nervous system by feeling the weight of my body through my feet. I always record standing up at my sit-stand desk. It's one of the opportunities where I'm not actually writing or typing, and I find it really easy to do work standing when I'm not doing either of those things. So feeling the weight of my body through the feet, feeling the feeling of the clothing on my skin, that's all something I can do while I'm still talking, if I could be driving, I could be shopping, I could be cooking, whatever. Doing things like that really help to ground your nervous system because you're being very mindful, very present in this moment. Things like stepping outside barefoot onto the grass, that can really help. Sometimes using a supplement like magnesium. Oh my gosh, we chew through so much magnesium when we're stressed. So magnesium might just be your new best friend. It calms the nervous system, it supports sleep, it reduces anxiety. You can get it through food, leafy greens, nuts, seeds. Honestly, you probably, if you're having these sorts of issues, you probably need a quality supplement. Please stay away from magnesium oxide unless you want to have diarrhea. So you're looking at things like magnesium citrate or glycinate are probably the ones fairly easy for you to get at the chemist or the health food store. It is just incredible for helping to support your nervous system. There are other things which I'll talk about in a moment, which can also help. But I also just wanted to talk about my third tip is to prioritize your sleep. And I know it's not always easy. I know, believe me. But improving sleep quality is huge for emotional regulation. So doing things like creating a calming bedtime routine. Now, this does not need to be anything fancy. It just needs to be a routine so that you're teaching your mind that when I do this and I do this and I do this. So it could be I have a shower, brush my teeth, brush my hair. It could be listening to a meditation, doing some deep breathing. As long as it's something that is a bit of a routine that starts to say to your mind, okay, we're doing these things, that means we're going to go to sleep. I'm going to get ready for that. So bedtime routine, super important. Reducing screens. For me, I tend to get away from my phone at around 6 o'clock at night, and that keeps me away from my screen. And I have it in another room to reduce temptation. And I really encourage doing that because it's so easy. If I ever slip a little and go, I'll just bring the phone with me this time. It often happens if my husband's out for the evening and I'm just, I know he's going to call me before he leaves wherever he is. So I'll often have my phone next to me while I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And then the temptation to look at it is there. And then I can just dive down a scroll fest for an hour. It's crazy. So yeah, getting away from your screen is a big for a few things. Yes, it supports sleep because you've got the blue light issue, but also just the distraction, getting into your stress response again is not great. Also, having dim lighting after you've had dinner, cleaned up the kitchen, whatever it is that you need to do. Dim the lights. If you can, turn off all overhead lights. I only have lamps and candles after dinner because that reduction of light mimics when we were cave people. As the sun went down, there were no lights, right, until we had fire. So just having low-level light helps to stimulate melatonin production. You can also consider some natural products such as magnesium again. Magnesium bath, fantastic, because we do absorb magnesium through the skin. Do need to make sure you've got enough magnesium in the bath that it's going to draw the magnesium into your body and not draw the magnesium out of your body. Herbal teas can be quite nice, although I have to admit it is hard to get a therapeutic dose from a herbal tea. However, if you have it as part of your bedtime routine and it's something that's lovely for you and makes you feel good and you just enjoy the ritual of it, that is definitely going to help. Also, things like guided meditations, as I mentioned before, if that is suitable for you. If you're looking at sort of herbal support, some incredible herbs, and you can, I would always recommend working with a practitioner to get the right ones for you, because there are so many incredible herbs that really help sleep. And it can be really confusing. I know I often, when my clients come and see me and I ask them what supplements they're on, the number of people that are on supplements that double up, that do the same thing, or they have crossover ingredients. And it's like, gosh, you're just spending money on stuff that it's just waste. But the ones, the herbs I particularly like to help with sleep are withania, which is more popularly known as ashwagandha. Rhodiola is a fantastic one because it really helps with sleep. Melissa, passion flower, these all support mood, hormone balance, nervous system function. There are many more. So, please work with a practitioner to get the right ones for you. And also, I guess number 5 is reducing the load. And this might be the hardest one. Start saying no. Your system is already under stress. Give yourself permission to slow down, to delegate, or cancel. You don't have to push through everything. Honoring your capacity is a radical act of self-care. And, that can be small things. It can be big things. Like I know for myself, I'm going on holidays in a few weeks. And in my mind, I'm like, I need to be recording extra podcasts and writing extra content for my socials and doing all of those things, which is, doubling and tripling my workload in the lead up to going away. And then today I just thought to myself, why am I doing this? Just say no and just reuse some of the content I have. I have years worth of podcasts. And so when I go away, which is in a couple of weeks, I'll be putting up some of my favorite I'm not going to call it a rewatch, favorite flashback episodes. And that's the reasons, because I'm just going to say no to increasing my workload so dramatically. I was considering working on the public holidays that are coming up and all of the things. And it's like, no, just no. It's not good. It's not good for the nervous system. It's not good for hormones. It's not good for stress, anything. So yeah, start saying no. You'd be surprised. Once you start doing it, it actually gets easier and easier. So I just wanted to end this episode by reminding you that it is not you. You are not the problem. These hormonal shifts are happening. Even if you're on MHT or menopause hormone therapy, you're still going to get these fluctuations. What you're experiencing is part of a natural transition, but just because it's common doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. There are real, effective ways that don't cost a lot of money to support your emotional health during perimenopause. You don't need to white-knuckle your way through it. You deserve to feel emotionally stable, mentally clear, and deeply supported. If this episode spoke to you, I would love it if you'd share it with a friend who might be going through the same thing. And if you're ready for more personalized support, you can always connect with me on Instagram at the Perimenopause Path. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next week with some more practical tools and support to help you through your perimenopause and menopause journey. Have an awesome week, and I'll be back next week, hopefully with a new episode. If not, it will be a fantastic flashback episode. Thanks so much for joining me on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked this episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts, or the follow button if you're on Spotify, so that you get each new episode delivered to you every single week. If you feel like writing me a 5-star review, you would absolutely make my day. If you found this episode resonated with you, head over to my Instagram and DM me at the Perimenopause Path. I would love to connect with you.